I'm ready.
All right.
Okay, starting.
Good morning. The time is now 9:31 a.m. and a quorum of the board is present. The State Board of Education meeting of December 8th, 2020 is called to order. Due to the COVID-19 national emergency and in accordance with Public Act 228 of 2020, State Board of Education regular and committee of the whole meeting is being convened with remote access technology. The first item on the agenda is the approval of agenda and order of priority. Are there any items board members would like to add or delete from the agenda at this time, or any other recommendations around the agenda? Dr. Pugh?
Yes, I am proposing that we switch around items 2 and 3. I'm not looking directly at the agenda now, I'm pulling it up. But if we could move the discussion around teacher capacity with the second item on the agenda.
So this would be a change of the 10:15 item to 10:45 and vice versa.
Yes.
I support.
If there are no objections to that, the board will consider the agenda as amended. If there are objections, we'll vote specifically on the motion to amend the agenda. Hearing no objections, we are voting on the agenda as amended. Marilyn, if you take a roll call vote, please.
Fecto?
Excuse me, did we have a motion and a support for the adoption of the?
I beg your pardon. So we could have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Support.
Okay, any discussion? And now the roll call vote. Thank you very much, President Albrecht.
Fecto?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Pritchett?
Yes.
Pugh?
Yes.
Ramos Montini? Lupe? Yeah, I can see her saying yes. You are muted, just so you know. Snyder is absent at this point, expected to join. Tilly absent at this point, expected to join. Albrecht?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. You've just been listening to Marilyn Schneider, our State Board Executive, who is going to introduce the members of the State Board of Education. Marilyn, if you do the honors, please.
I'm happy to do so. Dr. Cassandra Albrecht is president of the board from Dearborn. Dr. Pamela Pugh, vice president of the board from Saginaw. Ms. Michelle Fecto, secretary from Detroit. Mr. Tom McMillan, treasurer from Oakland Township. Ms. Tiffany Tilley, NASB delegate from Southfield. Ms. Lupe Ramos Montini, chair of the board's legislative committee from Grand Rapids. Dr. Judy Pritchett, co-chair of the board's legislative committee from Washington Township. Ms. Nikki Snyder, State Board Legislative Committee member from Dexter. She is on her way to the meeting, virtually speaking. Ms. Brandy Johnson, Governor's Policy Advisor for Education and Workforce, and she's on the line. And the Teacher of the Year, Mr. Owen Bondano, English Language Arts teacher at Oak Park Freshman Institute in Oak Park Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Today we say a heartfelt thank you to Ms. Michelle Fecto and Ms. Lupe Ramos Montini. These esteemed board members are concluding their terms of office on the State Board of Education. Ms. Fecto has served on the board for 8 years, holding the offices of Secretary of the Board and Michigan's delegate to the National Association of State Boards of Education. Ms. Ramos Montini has also served on the board for 8 years. She is chairperson of the State Board of Education Legislative Committee and was also Michigan's delegate to the National Association of State Boards of Education, as well as Central Area Director on NASB's Board of Directors. Both Ms. Ramos Montini and Ms. Fecto are extremely dedicated public servants who have made sacrifices for the betterment of children and public education. Speaking on behalf of students and educators in Michigan, we are extremely grateful for the service you have provided. We have an agenda item, adoption of resolution honoring Ms. Michelle Fecteau. May I please have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Support.
I have a motion, and do I have a second?
Support.
Support. Is there any discussion associated therewith? Are there any hanging chads associated with this motion?
I will have comments to make, but I'll wait until after both of the motions pass.
Very
Sorry,
good.
both of them.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Marilyn, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Fecteau.
Here.
McMillan.
Yes.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yeah.
Ramos Montini.
Yes.
Snyder. Absent, I believe. Tilly. Absent, I believe. Albrecht.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. And Ms. Fecteau, would you care to share a few words of reflection?
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a remarkable 8 years. I came into this because I wanted to, I saw things that were happening and I wanted to try to change them for the better. I have learned a lot from so many people. I admire all the hardworking people that work for MDE, my fellow board members who've gone above and beyond besides just coming to meetings and doing all the extras. I wanted to just give a shout out to Cassandra Albrecht and how proud I am of her leadership. Same thing with Pamela Pugh, and I've watched her when she first came on, you know, and really developing into a strong leader. And Kathy Strauss, who I had the privilege of driving in for several years and learning from her. I also wanted to give a shout out to Tom McMillan, who took the time to come to Detroit and learn about what was happening there, and meeting with kids in foster care and hearing their stories, and working together to try to do something for it in a bipartisan way, and having the privilege of working with Ryan Callie and traveling all over the state with him on a listening tour and being on the task force and all these opportunities, especially with regard to students who are in special ed and other marginalized groups. I am very proud and very grateful for Marilyn Schneider and all that she does to support us and making it look easy. Brian Whiston, who in his quiet way, got things done, and our new superintendent. And all of you, I mean, I want to mention all of you, and but I will take way too long. And of course, my husband, Eddie Haka, who has supported me as I've tried to juggle everything. I've done my best. I feel good about what I've done. I wish I could do more, but I need to attend to my adult son with autism. I turned 60 in 2 days, and so I need to really make sure he's independent. So I leave the board in good hands, all you good people, and some good people coming on. So thank you all for working with me and supporting me, and I'll miss you.
Thank you, Michelle. We will miss you as well. There's no question about that. We move on, and I'm sure that there are going to be board member comments this afternoon regarding our departing board members. The next agenda item is adoption of resolution honoring Ms. Lupe Ramos Montini. May I have a motion to approve, please?
So move.
Motion, and do I have a second?
Support.
Support. Any discussion? Hearing none. Marilyn, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Fecteau.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
Ramos Montini.
Yes.
Snyder.
Yes.
Tilly.
Yes.
Albrecht.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Ramos-Montini, would you care to share a few words of reflection as well?
Yes, I would. There's a song named If I Could Turn Back Time. If I Could Turn Back Time. Cher sings that song. Well, if I could turn back time, I wouldn't, because I couldn't. So I am very proud of the work that I have done, advocating, promoting, encouraging a successful experience for all the students in our great state. And I have learned that at the table where we have members of different political affiliations, we have to learn how to respect each other, work with each other to carry this agenda that we are elected to do. So I want to thank all of the members of the state board, starting with John Austin, who encouraged me to run, and then of course Kathy Strauss, who was an inspiration and a role model for me. And as we continue working towards a better education for all, I'm hoping that today we are able to pass the bullying policy. Well, it's the bullying discussion that we're going to have today, because no harassment, no bullying has to be part of the student experience. Yesterday, we had another suicide of a young person here in the greater Grand Rapids area. And so this policy is so very important to us as board members, as citizens of our great state, as educators. And in my mind, everyone is an educator, whether you have a teaching degree or not. Now, I have worked with 3 outstanding superintendents. Retired Superintendent Mike Flanagan, served my superintendent for 5 years until he retired. And then the late Brian Whiston. Brian Whiston, the last thing that he said to me during the meeting, in that particular meeting, I was not placed as a member of the MTOY, the Teacher of the Year committee. So I wrote to him a text and I said, I'm very disappointed. I want to continue serving in this committee. So he didn't say anything. And that was his last meeting on the board. So I went to him, of course, after the meeting to say bye and give him a hug. And then he said to me, Lupe, you're going to be the superintendent's representative to this committee. So that's the last thing that he said to me. And then he passed away. So I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity of working with Mike Flanagan and the late Brian Whiston, and now working with Superintendent Michael Rice. Now, one very unique quality of both the late Brian Whiston and Superintendent Michael Rice is that I advocated for and promoted and supported and endorsed somebody else during the process. But it was very, both of them showed great leadership when they didn't hold this against me. And once they were superintendents, they were the elected or selected superintendents, they used their wisdom, their leadership, and we all worked together. It wasn't a divided board because some of us had voted and advocated for a different candidate. So I really, truly appreciate that. And I learned from that because this is not true all the time. When we when I have supported other candidates or voted for other candidates, people get discouraged and upset at me. But true leadership is when at the end of the day, we all can work together and we don't hold grudges. So that was a very, very good experience for me. Now, I want to thank all the board members that I have worked with, that I have served with, that I have advocated for education. All of you that are on the screen, I thank you. I thank you 100 times. Because of you, I have grown. Because of you, I am a different person. Because of you, I will continue until I can't do it anymore. So my next big adventure, and will continue being one of my big educational experiences, is my involvement with the Grand Rapids Public Museum. I serve on 2 boards, and I also serve in the advisory committee for the museum school. So my advocacy for education is not going to end with this board, but this has been one great experience as I move the needle forward for the best education that students can get. So I thank you. Muchas gracias por todo su apoyo y toda su ayuda. Gracias. And I thank Michigan. Thank you, Michigan, for all your support.
Thank you, Lupe. Thank you, Michelle, for your extraordinary service over the last 8 years. The board is losing very, very important voices. In Michelle, a voice associated with the needs of special needs children, foster care children, children who are marginalized in particular ways, and with respect to Lupe, an important voice when it comes to first generation immigrant children, English language learners, our Latino communities. And those are important voices for our Board of Education to have, and we're going to have to reflect carefully, Board, about how we not replace those voices, but fill in those voices over a period of years. You can never replace fully a voice or a person, particularly not people with whom or to whom you've grown close, but you can work to get their reflections increasingly at the table after a period of time where there is inevitably going to be a gap. So I ask us to reflect upon that, Board, because there are so many young people who have benefited from the advocacy of Lupe Ramos-Montini and Michelle Fecteau at this board table over the last 8 years. If I were in church, I would say amen.
Just one more thing. We're also losing the voice from a person from the west side of the state, from the greater Grand Rapids area. So I want my board members to also remember that, because I was the very first person in the Democratic Party to be elected for a statewide, and more important, for a state board position. So that voice is going to subside, but I am confident that the board members will continue advocating for all children throughout the state.
Very good. Thank you, Lupe. Thank you, Michelle. The next agenda item is adoption of resolutions honoring Dawn Henges.
Before we move on,
yes.
Can I just say something real quick? Because I noticed that
Please.
Eddie has joined Michelle, and I just want to say, you know, I'll have more comments at my president's meeting, but since Eddie has joined Michelle, I just wanted to recognize both of them, because I know, well, first of all, I'll just say I'm in awe of both of them and what they have done. They've opened their homes to countless children, and now children of children, and that they're very, very special people. And I'm gonna miss you.
Thank you, Cassandra. You're only in Dearborn. I'm right around the corner.
That sounds like a post-pandemic date.
Mhm.
May I get some comments in here too?
Please.
And I don't have anything prepared. Nothing can prepare you for this exiting of Michelle and Lupe, and I guess I've been in denial for a little while, but you know, it's not much that I do that I'm not consulting with Michelle, and I will continue to do that. There's no one in the state that comes with the experiences and the information and the passion that she has for our children in this state. And then Lupe, knowing Lupe from women's events and women's group, and she was here before I got here. Both of them were. So you just don't imagine them leaving before you do. And so we have huge shoes that we cannot fill, but I do plan to continue to text you and consult with you and hope that you will answer the call. And I, like Cassandra, do agree that Eddie too has been someone that we've been able to consult with as it relates to environmental issues in urban school districts, issues with teachers and educators, and just so much that the two of them bring to the table that we will continue to have to consult with the two of you and Lupe as well. So you all will be greatly missed, but I will definitely hope that you'll answer the call.
Thank you, Dr. Pugh. Any others? Thank you again. Next agenda item is adoption of resolutions honoring Dawn Henges and Holly Holm as the 2020 Michigan Education Support Staff Professionals of the Year. Congratulations to Dawn and Holly, who were named the 2020 Michigan Education Support Staff Professionals of the Year. MDE staff will share more about the recipients and the award. Presenters are Dr. Bill Pearson, the Interim Deputy Superintendent of Educator, Student, and School Supports, Ms. Leah Breen, the Director of the Office of Educator Excellence, and Ms. Jennifer Roble, Manager of the Recruitment and Recognition Unit in the Officer of Educator Excellence. Photos of the award recipients will be displayed, and they are going to join us by telephone. If I could begin, if we could have a motion to adopt the resolutions honoring Dawn Henges and Holly Holm.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor, if we could do a roll call vote?
Yes. Fecto,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
Ramos Montini,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Tilly,
Yes.
Albrecht.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous approval.
Thank you very much, Marilyn. And now if our presenters could tell us a little bit more about the award in question.
Yes, hi, this is Bill Pearson. We are very happy to share information about the recipients and the award. And as Dr. Rice stated, Leah Breen and Jennifer Roble from Office of Educator Excellence will provide background information and introduce this year's recipients.
Thank you, Dr. Pearson. Thank you, Dr. Rice and board members. And I want to take a minute and just thank Michelle and Lupe because they did serve on the recognition panels, and I do appreciate their ongoing support. So thank you very much. The education support staff. Okay, here we go. I hope they're on the call. We haven't heard anything, so I'm hoping. Okay. The Education Support Staff Professional of the Year was brought to the Michigan Department of Education last year through a partnership between the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, the American Federation of Teachers in Michigan, and the Michigan Education Association. With the support of these 3 organizations, the MDE received 42 nominations this year of exceptional education support staff professionals. These support staff professionals were recognized for the effective work in and out of the classroom, in the buildings, in the district, and most importantly, in the community. The 2020 Education Support Staff Professionals of the Year are Dawn Henges of Western School District in Jackson County and Hallie Holm of Crawford, Escoda, Ogama, Roscommon Intermediate School District. Now, at this time, Josh is going to put up some pictures of Hallie and Dawn, if we can. There he comes. There they are. Dawn Henges is a food and nutrition service worker at Parma Elementary School, where she has worked for 20 years. School district leaders explain that during this unprecedented time of the pandemic, Dawn has gone above and beyond for students, ensuring that they have high quality nutritionist meals every day and promoting the location of the food distribution centers in the district so no student went hungry. The students actually know their meals were made by a friendly and caring person every day because they saw her every day, and they continue to. Hallie Holm is an administrative assistant with the Core ISD in Roscommon, where she has worked for 17 years and has had a tremendous impact on students and her colleagues alike. District leaders say Hallie is the rock of the ISD by treating students and staff with the utmost respect, and she is the center of the systems that keep the schools running seamlessly. Her co-workers describe her as being the ear to listen when it has been a rough day and the smile behind the reassurance to carry on with your day. Both Dawn and Hallie's passion and commitment for their school community goes beyond ensuring that all of their students have a positive experience, especially now. Dawn and Hallie have both been described as exemplary teammates who work with other school staff for the betterment of students and their families, colleagues, and the district. Dawn and Hallie have also been put forward by Governor Whitmer's office to the U.S. Department of Education for the National RISE Award. The Recognizing Inspirational School Employees Award is a new award authorized by Congress in 2019, which honors classified school employees who provide exemplary service. And we wish both Dawn and Hallie good luck in winning this award. This would be great for Michigan. I'd also like to say a special thank you to our guests from Western School District and Core ISD who are on the call with us. They've been extremely supportive of Dawn and Hallie throughout this whole process. From Western School District, Superintendent Michael Smata, Principal of Parma Elementary School, Sue Haney, and Jenny Lucas, the Food Service Director for Western School District. Sean Petrie, Core ISD Superintendent, Melissa Akers, Principal of the Core Educational Center, Jill Radasta, Core ISD Special Education Director, and Brenda Vaughn Ide, Dean of Students at Core Educational Center. Dr. Rice and State Board members, I'd like to now introduce you, I'm hoping they're on the call, to the 2020 Education Support Staff Professionals of the Year, Dawn Henges and Hallie Holm. Dawn and Hallie, if you'd like to say a few words, you can. If not, that's okay. It looks a lot different this year, so it's okay either way.
Good morning. This is Hallie.
Go ahead, Hallie.
Morning.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't want to talk over anyone. I did have something to say, if I might. I'm really excited, privileged, and overwhelmed to be receiving this award today. As the famous saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child, and I have been blessed to be part of the Core Educational Center Village, doing what we can to help students we serve receive a quality education and find a home away from home. I would like to thank Governor Whitmer, Dr. Rice, and the State of Michigan Board of Education for their recognition in establishing this award and for making Michigan students a priority. Thank you to the Michigan Education Association, American Federation of Teachers of Michigan, and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees for their partnership with the MDE to recognize support staff. Recognition of a job well done goes such a long way for raising morale. I would also like to thank Melissa Akers, our Core Educational Center Principal, and Brenda Vaughn Ide, Dean of Students, and my fellow co-worker family at the Core Educational Center for their faith to nominate me for this award. It was quite a shock and a surprise. We have an amazing team at the Core Ed Center. I would also like to thank Sean Petrie, Superintendent of the Core Intermediate School District, and Jill Radosta, Director of Special Education, for their constant caring leadership in educating our students. A huge thank you and hug to my family for their never failing love, support, and uplifting. You are my life and my inspiration. I love you and I'm grateful for all that you do. Lastly, congratulations to Dawn, my co-recipient, for her accomplishment in receiving this award as well. The Western School District is lucky to have her. 2020 has been quite a year for all of us, but I have to admit this has been a huge highlight for me. So thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you very
Holly.
much, Holly. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Dawn, are you on the line and would you like to share? One more shot. Dawn, are you with us? Can you hear us now? Okay.
Dr. Rice, I'm told that she's very shy. She's a very shy person, so maybe I can get her to say something later on.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, we congratulate both of our recipients. They are outstanding education support professionals, and they represent outstanding support professionals across the state who help us on a regular basis run our schools in support of 1.5 million public school children across the state. We appreciate you. We wish you the best of luck in the national competition as well. Ms. Breen, Ms. Roble, anything more on the awards?
Yes, they'll be each receiving plaques with their names on them to be hung in their local district, and they'll also be receiving $1,000 each from MEA, AFT, and AFSCME. So we want to thank them, to be spent any way that they would like. So I would like to thank the three organizations for that as well. And I would like to thank Dr. Pearson because he was thrown into this and I was thrown at him. So I appreciate that. And Director Breen is always supportive and I appreciate her as well. And my staff, Josh and Shelby, we all put a lot of work into this. And of course, Brandy in the governor's office to help with the RISE award. She worked really hard on that as well. And it's just a privilege and an honor to work in on these programs. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to you and the team. Board members, any comments or reflections? Comments?
I would
yes.
just like to congratulate both of our professionals of the year and just thank them for their continued service, and especially in a year like this year.
Thank you, Dr. Pugh. Anything else from any other board members? Going once.
Michael?
Yep, please.
Yes, I would like to congratulate the two, I want to get this name right. The Educational Support Staff Professionals of the Year. I congratulate you. When I started my career in teaching, I started also where you are now. So, you know, there's always the sky is the limit. So here I am sitting on the state board after starting where you are. So there's a lot of things for you both to do. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Brandy Johnson.
Yeah, just wanted to say on behalf of the governor, congratulations to Dawn and Holly. It was a pleasure working on this process. It was very competitive. The submissions, telling the stories of how important support staff are in our schools and to our children was incredibly uplifting during this really difficult year. So just wanted to say on behalf of the governor, congratulations, Holly and Dawn. It was a real pleasure being able to nominate you for the National RISE Award. Also wanted to say thank you to the MEA, AFT, and AFSCME. When I shared the press release with the U.S. Department of Education, they indicated that we were the only state that really took extra steps to recognize individuals in these roles. And then finally, just wanted to particularly thank Leah Breen, who who just ran a really incredible process, and thank her for including the governor's office.
Great. Thank you very much. And we appreciate your leadership in myriad ways. Thank you. Any other board member comments? Going once, twice, Dr. Pearson, Ms. Breen, Ms. Roble, thank you very much. Ms. Holm and Ms. Henges, congratulations. You are officially rock stars of the year. Congratulations. We move on, board members, to our next portion of the agenda, COVID-19 related updates. I'll be sharing briefly on a few areas related to the pandemic in the next several minutes. As is often the case, each of these areas has a great deal of underlying detail. COVID-19 numbers and mitigation efforts. When I updated the board at our November 10th board meeting, we had just passed 50 million cases worldwide. Yesterday, we had more than 67 million cases worldwide, an increase of 17 million cases, approximately a 34% increase in 28 days. By our November 10th board meeting, we had 1.26 million deaths worldwide. Yesterday, we had more than 1.5 million deaths, an increase of 280,000 deaths worldwide, a 22% increase in 28 days. Let me put that in perspective. That's 10,000 deaths a day worldwide due to COVID-19. When I updated the board at our November 10th board meeting, we had just passed 10 million cases nationally. By yesterday, we were at 14.9 million cases nationally, an increase of just under 5 million cases, or about a 49% increase in just 28 days. If we continue at this rate of growth nationally, we will more than double the number of cases in this country from our November 10th board meeting to our January 12th board meeting. It is extraordinary growth. By our November 10th meeting, we had had more than 238,000 deaths nationally. By yesterday, we had had more than 283,000 deaths nationally, an increase of 45,000 deaths, 19% increase in 28 days. To put the death toll in context, in 28 days, the last 28 days, we lost 80% of the number of US citizens to COVID-19 that we did in the Vietnam War in a decade. In Michigan, it took just shy of 8 months to reach 200,000 COVID-19 cases. It has taken just the last month to double the number of cases to more than 400,000. Today, we are likely to record our 10,000th death in the state, the last 1,000 in the last 11 days. Across Michigan, as in many places across the country, we have experienced large increases in cases, positivity rates, hospitalization rates, and deaths. The good news is that vaccines are on the horizon. The challenge is to preserve human life as we work through the next several months to getting our population, and particularly our vulnerable population, vaccinated. As I said at the last board meeting, for those of you who are concerned about your family, friends, and coworkers, wear your masks. For those who are concerned about public health, wear your masks. For those who are concerned about keeping schools open to educate our children in person, wear your masks. And for those who are concerned about the economy, wear your masks. Wear your masks, socially distance to the extent possible, wash your hands frequently, disinfect regularly, and we will have the opportunity to a far greater extent to return to some measure of normalcy in our schools. The better we do with mitigation efforts, the better we are going to be able to do in educating children in person, not simply in this state, but across the country. The extension of pause. Yesterday, Governor Whitmer and Health Department Director Robert Gordon announced a 12-day extension of the 3-week pause implemented in mid-November. Relative to education specifically, and the order spoke to a wide range of areas, but relative to education specifically, the 832 LEAs, traditional public school districts and public school academies, and the 56 intermediate school districts retain authority over whether pre-K-8 schools are open during the last 2 weeks before winter break. High schools remain closed according to the new emergency order, with 3 important exceptions. 1, children with special needs. 2, English language learners, both of which were included as exceptions in the previous order, and a new group, number 3, career and technical education students whose programs cannot be completed at a distance. We appreciate the expansion of flexibility for these groups of young people. As noted by the governor, the health department director, and chief medical officer, Dr. Janae Khaldun, the 3 major indicators that we need to drive down are cases, positivity rates, and hospitalization rates associated with COVID-19. We should soon have a more complete understanding of the adverse impact of the recent holiday on these 3 indicators: federal testing, state testing, and local testing. Last week, the U.S. Department of Education announced that the Federal National Assessment of Educational Progress, NAEP tests in reading and math would be postponed from spring 2021 to spring 2022. Given the pandemic, this decision makes sense and indeed is consistent with our belief that state summative assessments in Michigan, MSTEP, MyAccess, and MME tests should be postponed until spring 2022 as well. As the board recalls, we applied to the United States Department of Education for a waiver last March for spring 2020 state testing, and the waiver was granted. We applied in late June for a waiver of spring 2021 state testing, and that waiver was denied by USED. At the time of the denial, I indicated that the department would be reapplying for a waiver in the winter. Those plans remain. Just as this is not the year to do federal NAEP testing, it is not the year to do MSTEP testing either. Last week, however, some argued at the federal level that the postponement of NAEP testing until spring of 2022 meant that state summative assessments were more necessary than they otherwise would have been if NAEP was administered this spring. This is illogical. If we can't administer a federal test for which only a sample of students is assessed, we certainly shouldn't try to test an entire population over the better part of the spring. Children have lost so much instructional time, they shouldn't lose more to MSTEP. Actually, the postponement of NAEP doesn't make more important the administration of MSTEP. Rather, it makes more important the locally chosen, locally administered benchmark assessments that school districts use annually to determine where children are and what they need to do to help children in their reading, writing, and mathematics. These tests are less time-consuming and less disruptive than MSTEP. They generate results more quickly. They permit the modification of instruction based on the results, and they help us understand at the student, school, and school district levels what course alterations need to take place. Benchmark assessments are required by law this school year, and they help answer the question, how will we be able to determine where our children are academically in and after the pandemic? Again, unless we are told unequivocally that there will be no federal waivers of state summative assessments, we will be reapplying for waivers this winter. MDE guidance. In the 9 months of the pandemic, the department has produced 141 guidance documents for school districts related in some way to COVID-19, separate and distinct from our traditional work. In the last few weeks, in addition to our typical fall work with districts, we've shared guidance on the WIDA testing for English language learners during the pandemic, allowable uses of federal coronavirus relief fund dollars, and multi-tiered system of supports webinars. Finally, board, we have launched a social and emotional learning / children's mental health network with representation that includes superintendents, principals, teachers, social workers, guidance counselors, psychologists, and school health officials, among many others. Social and emotional learning, or SEL, has 5 competencies: self-awareness, awareness of others, self-management, relationship to others, and decision-making. SEL is valuable for children of all ages, backgrounds, and challenges. The children's mental health aspect of the network is largely for children with moderate or severe mental health challenges for which explicit intervention is necessary. Board members may recall that just a few years ago, the state legislature allocated $30 million for children's mental health, so-called 31N dollars, that helped fund mental health services out of ISDs across the state. This funding source was increased by $5.6 million to $35.6 million by the legislature in September for this fiscal year. In addition, the board may recall that MDE created an education equity fund with $37 million of CARES Act funds and permitted local school districts across the state to apply for these competitive grant dollars in one of 2 areas: children's mental health and digital divide. In all, we distributed $7.64 million to local school districts to address mental health needs this year, approximately 1/4 the amount of the state allocation last year, and more than the increase in the state's children's mental health budget this year. It was an enormously important contribution to children's mental health across the state. We are pleased to be one of 9 states that are working with the Council of Chief State School Officers, CCSSO, my professional organization, and CASEL, the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. Additionally, we appreciate the opportunity to work closely with the American Association of Superintendents and Administrators as a member of its national SEL cohort, and to work with partners in state government as well, including the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Finally, we are pleased to announce a $500,000 grant over the next 2 years from the Michigan Health Endowment Fund. This funding will help us train educators across the state in SEL, a substantial increase of educators, and to work intensively with 20 districts, 10 districts that have already begun their work in the area, and 10 that are largely beginning, to create district models to help inform others across the state. Our SEL work in the coming years is going to help us broaden, deepen, and make more cohesive our SEL efforts in the state. This is an important area. It's an important area in a world that is increasingly anxiety-provoking for our young people. And we have a responsibility to help work with our young people and to teach our young people how to navigate this space with some measure of confidence. President Ulbrich, members of the board, this is a packed meeting. As such, I'll be short, not simply in my stature, but in my comments today. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time. And if you have a question or a comment, if you could so indicate in the chat. And if not, we can keep on keeping on, because we've got enough agenda to get us to the Times Square New Year's Eve ball. Any questions or comments? Comment from, I'm sorry, we've got a comment for, oh no, I beg your pardon, that's an old note. Comments or questions?
I do.
Mr. McMillan.
Thanks. Dr. Rice, I'm hearing from people that are on the ground at schools that the real challenge, or one of the biggest challenges, is getting teachers to agree to show up in classrooms. And is that, I guess we'll talk about it a little bit as far as ways to alleviate that in the legislative discussion, but are there efforts being made to, to try to address that? I mean, the kids are unnecessarily being harmed and forced to do distance learning when really they could be in person, but it's the staffing that's the problem. And so I just wonder what MDE is doing to try to help alleviate that.
Sure.
I do think that putting things in better perspective would be more helpful instead of trying to scare people. If we look at the comparisons between April and November, we see an almost 900% increase in testing, 600% increase, 500% increase in identified cases, but the testing has gone up almost 900%, a 50% decrease in deaths. And as I've been saying every meeting, those that 75% of teachers, according to the CDC, as far as their age range, I think it's below 50 in age. They have a more likelihood of dying on their way to school in a car from a car accident than they do from COVID, even if they get it. So, I think part of the contribution of the hesitancy for some teachers to show up at least would be kind of not the lack of putting things into perspective. So and increasing the definition of what deaths, how COVID deaths are now counted, has really expanded that number as well. The way the PCR cycles and the problems with that are contributing to increased numbers of cases being identified. So, and positivity rates. So I guess, but getting back to my main question is what's MDE doing to try to alleviate the teacher and staffing problems?
Well, a couple of things. One, we've advocated with the state legislature for relief from current statutes. We've advocated for greater flexibility with respect to substitute teachers. Substitute teachers, a big issue in the midst of the pandemic. I had a superintendent call me up and say, right. Dr. Rice, 2 kids tested positive for COVID-19. We had to quarantine 40 people in our building. 6 of them were teachers, struggled to get substitute teachers. We've advocated with the state legislature that they change the statute associated with sub-teachers, and for this year and this year only, to reduce the requirements to not require 60 credits during the pandemic for support staff members who could serve as substitute teachers during this period of time, to help out when there are teachers who are out either with COVID-19 or quarantined because they came into contact with COVID-19. So that's number one. Number two, we've advocated with the state legislature for an expansion of the critical shortage teacher list, and expansion both temporally and in terms of the breadth of individuals noted on that. With respect to going to school, a number of us have advocated strongly that with mitigation efforts, masks, the social distancing, the hand washing, the disinfecting, that there is an opportunity for a large number of young people to be able to educate in person, in part because there are a number of families that are making other decisions, that is, decisions to keep their children home. And the decisions of families to keep their children home help thin out the numbers and help out the choices of families that want to educate their children in person. I do think that there is an opportunity to accommodate a large number of our young people in-person instruction. But I don't think that it can be done in the absence of mitigation strategies. It can only be done in the presence of mitigation strategies. Moreover, I think one has to understand that it is markedly easier to address in-person instruction in the midst of a pandemic if you are in a sparsely populated school already than if you are at a densely populated school as a rule. So I think this is an easier gig when you have small classes as a rule and small schools as a rule than if you have large numbers of people that you have to figure out how you work with. So I think that it's a different challenge in certain communities rather than in other communities. You speak specifically to teachers and teachers' reluctance to come into schools. I do think that there are teachers that are concerned, some of whom have medical issues, some of whom have families who have medical issues, family members that have medical issues, and some of whom are simply anxious about the current conditions. But starting in August, we were drumbeating around the power of trying to educate in person those children of those parents that wanted to educate their children in person in the districts across the state. But you know, Mr. McMillan, it is a local control state, and you can't have it both ways. You can't
I said help. I didn't say mandate.
There you go.
I wanted MD to be helping.
Fair enough. Ms. Snyder and
then just to
I'm
follow
sorry.
up, I guess,
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure one last thing, Dr. Rice, that you do acknowledge that the CDC made it clear that for healthy children, the flu is more problematic for their health than COVID. I mean, you've seen that sentence or that, their declaration of that. I just wanted to make sure that you would acknowledge that.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I think what's important to note, though, is that
do you acknowledge yes or no?
I think that what's important to note is that they're for their parents or for their medically compromised family members. The flu is not worse than COVID-19. The COVID-19 is going to be far more deadly than the common flu. Ms. Snyder.
Precautions for that situation.
Yeah, Ms. Snyder.
Just to immediately address that last conversation and then ask my question. I think it is important to acknowledge what Tom just said, Dr. Rice, because at some point in time, we do have to put the kids first, period. And I think that in the midst of all of this conversation, everybody has a perspective, there's data, there's points to be made, but one of the things I don't feel like I'm hearing in the middle of the conversation frequent, or maybe at all yet, is the harm that really is being done to kids. And we're sort of acknowledging it in a roundabout way because we're giving so much money and time and effort and interest into discussing mental health. But what exactly is happening to kids who are sitting at home in front of a computer and learning virtually only? And I don't know that you could say what's happening to them necessarily. There's a plethora of research we could explore together and identify, things that may be likely, but we have not been through this in an era of data collection, so we really don't know. And what I think we do know, though, because we've seen it in the last several months, is that it's not natural for them to learn virtually. It can be done, it is being done, but there's a massive learning loss as it is associated with virtual learning right now, not necessarily long term. So I guess my question relates to that, and that is, how do we identify the learning loss without the data? I want to make sure I heard you correctly in your initial speech about you are still encouraging local benchmark tests that local districts give, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and every local school district is still, there's testing baked within the platforms that they're learning virtually from, because to some degree, I think that even though there's lots of disagreement about standardized tests and lots of conflict in education about standardized tests, I think it would be appropriate to at least acknowledge that testing or assessing and demonstrating knowledge is something we've always relied upon, regardless of how education has been administered. And a learning loss, to admit the learning loss, to discuss the idea that this is not natural for kids. There is an impact, there is an outcome associated with it, then there would naturally be a desire to explore that and to define it on some level so that we can help those kids that need to address the learning loss that is coming about individually for each one of them. So you answered my question, but I do feel like I probably can't say it enough times that this is not natural for kids. There is a harm that's happening, and yes, we can all talk about why it's happening and why it's not happening, disagree on that. There's a whole space for that. But one thing I just want to make sure is that we acknowledge that, because at some point in time, we do have to say, our kids need to get back to school. They need to, at some point in time, and when it's safe, I'll probably hear from follow-up comments, but we can't discount what they're going through right now.
I agree with you. I think this is a very harmful period. I think it's a harmful period for children. I think it's a harmful period for adults. And I think it's going to take a considerable amount of time, not simply in our state, but across the country and, quite frankly, across the world in most places to address the adverse impact of the pandemic. Ms. Ramos-Montini, Dr. Pugh, and Ms. Tilley on the phone. Ms. Ramos-Montini, I think you are on mute.
Well, yes, I was on mute. Well, all I have to say is that I agree with some of the things that have been said. This is very traumatic time for students and teachers and all other personnel. Teachers talked to me yesterday, and they're all stressed out. And so new programs being implemented by for them to use with their students. You know, they spent my teacher friends that still communicate with me, and I taught with them, are very, very stressed and demoralized as to what's happening in the schools. So yes, the pandemic has caused many different worries and struggles, both by the personnel and the students. And of course, you know, as a public school employee that I was, we do advocate in-school learning. And I remember how we were so adamant about technology being used to replace human beings as the instructors. But here we are, we have to use the computer to teach. So, you know, there's some good and from all sides of the spectrum. And so, but the pandemic is real. I have a lot of families that all the family is affected by COVID, all of them, mother, father, brother, sister, everybody, death, and so on and so on. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Pugh and Ms. Tilley.
Dr. Rice, I just want to start off by saying that I commend the department for seeking out resources for the support of social and emotional supports and for the mental well-being of our children. And those are things that don't just fall out of the sky. I know that this is something that you and the department have been working on for some time. And it wasn't that long ago where social and emotional supports, just the term SEL was eschewed by many. And so thank you for pushing forward and doing that. And we really do need to pause, because I think the last 3 meetings, you've given us some updates on how the department is working on that. And I also want to commend the department, you know, as well as the governor and Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. I think that, you know, we're at a time where we're fighting to just have COVID-19 be acknowledged There are some who still do not acknowledge COVID-19. And so I think in that acknowledgement, we really have to, for us to get to the point where we need to get to make sure that our children can return to school, COVID does have to be acknowledged as a real issue, as a real illness, and not all do that. I think we also have to acknowledge that it's healthy people that drive healthy economies and not the other way around. And then we also have to acknowledge that our schools are comprised of children, teachers, and staff who live in communities where COVID-19 is spreading and proliferating. I also want to thank our teachers, because had it not have been for teachers and teachers raising concern, not just for themselves, but once again for the children that they put before themselves, for their families, and in them raising these concerns, protesting, calling to the attention that not all schools, not all school districts had equitable mitigation at their fingertips. There were schools who didn't have masks. There are schools who can't test children or teachers and know what the status is and know if there is spread. There were schools who didn't even have sanitizer. And so parents who were already stretched thin at this time were being asked, and communities were being asked to amass these very simple controls around COVID-19. We also have to thank teachers, because in their pause and in them raising their voice, we were able to really hear through the rhetoric, the science that had been denied, that COVID is airborne, and that we do need to make sure that ventilation systems and buildings are in a shape that it does not cause the virus to spread even more. So I thank teachers for giving us that pause and raising their voice, their concern for children, for their families, and then for themselves, and still having to educate our children in the midst of all of this. So those are just some points that I want to raise. I also want to, look hopefully, and we can't say this enough, that we are happy that the vaccine is coming on board. And we cannot talk about immunization through people being infected, because in people being, and that has been promoted, but we want to make sure that people are looking at the vaccine as a viable solution to us moving forward. So making sure that we acknowledge this, that we are making sure that there's equitable mitigation tools at everyone's fingertips, and then making sure that we're looking forward to the vaccine that will be the safest way to move us forward. But I think the department, I think our teachers, our educators, my heart goes out to local school boards who are having to make these critical decisions. And I thank the governor and the Department of Health and Human Services. And, all we can do is, as community, stop the spread. And that helps us to get our children back into these schools. So those are just some points I just wanted to make.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pugh. Ms. Tilley?
Thank you. When I was joining the weekly White House calls that we had, that we were, a part of early on in the pandemic, one of the things that Vice President Pence said during that time is that this is 3 times worse than the flu. So this is definitely no comparison. It's not in the same vein. We do know that even before the coronavirus, there were parents that chose to homeschool their children. Learning from home is not a sentence. It's hard, it's difficult. Not every parent can homeschool. So it is difficult for parents. And going to school, though, we know that if the child catches the virus, they could get sick. We know that special needs children, if they have some physical ailments, they can get sick. And then we also know now about people being asymptomatic. So a child can go to school, catch it, not get sick, but come home, bring it to their parents, their grandparents, and get them sick. This is something we have to really take seriously. And yes, there are going to be some ramifications. There's going to be PTSD for the children and for families and for teachers and for everybody. And that is something we have to take seriously and deal with. But going to school, going to the physical building and congregating would make the situation much worse. And I was going to say the same thing as far as the way that the governor has handled this. I appreciate it. I appreciate her stepping up, shutting the schools down, making sure that students are safe. I appreciate MDE. I appreciate you, Dr. Rice, and your staff, because you guys took this seriously from the very beginning. You took it head on, and you worked quickly to try to do things to help our students and our teachers. And I definitely appreciate everybody's quick actions with this. This is not something that's going to change overnight. We are, not even close to, because I'm hearing maybe summer that the vaccine is going to really get out to the public. I know that people are using it in the health industry now. It's starting to get out to the health industry, but we don't know how the vaccine is going to work out yet. It could take a decade for data to trend. We don't know the long-term ramifications that could happen from a vaccine. We just don't know where we are at yet. And I think we need to talk about more solutions of how we can help students that are at home, how we can help parents, how we can better support teachers. I think that's where the conversations need to be at, because right now we know we are still in the middle of a pandemic, and it's serious health risk with being in public and, of course, for students going to school. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tilley. Any other reflections on the part of board members? Ms. Fecteau, I take that as you have a comment.
Yeah, for some reason my chat is connecting to the November meeting, not this meeting. So
it's all good. We do physical as well as virtual.
Okay. All right. Well, I had heard Brandy at one point, and I also was in a session earlier or last week, and where they talked about educators being considered for getting the vaccines sooner rather than later. So I'm just wondering if that might be a way, when that's expected, and what that means for opening schools safely. I also wanted to note that at least in a number of urban areas, asthma is astronomical. There's young children who have very high rates of asthma, and so these underlying conditions may be different in different communities, and those things need to be considered as well. Anyway, that's my question. So Brandy, if you could comment.
So Brandy, you may be on.
Sure, sorry.
Mute. There you go.
Yeah, so in terms of vaccination distribution, our Office of Immunization, led by Bob Swanson and MDHHS, has been working on a pretty comprehensive plan. As I understand it, MDHHS will largely rely on CDC recommendations as it relates to distribution, and specifically decisions made by a subcommittee of the CDC called the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, or ACIP. In its most recent meetings, ACIP has designated educators as essential workers. So on the same level as firefighters and police officers, utility workers, those critical infrastructure workers that keep our society moving. And I think we'd all agree that educators ought be included in that category. So that is what's considered the 1B prioritization. 1A is healthcare workers directly on the front lines fighting COVID, as well as residents of nursing homes. And then educators would be included in that 1B category. And I know MDHHS is hard at work working on the logistics for distribution, including distribution for educators in partnership with schools.
Thank you very much for sharing that. I appreciate that. I also appreciate your partnership on a regular basis. You've been enormously responsive. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from state board members? Going once, twice, thrice. We will keep this space open. It is an important space for driving the conversation on this issue. I think all of us look forward to a time where this space can be dedicated to other issues that we are post-pandemic. I noticed that put in the chat by Lupe Ramos Montini. I think we all want to be post-pandemic, and sooner rather than later. The next agenda item is presentation on educator workforce data report. This informational presentation is the annual update of educator workforce data. This report is intended to provide a snapshot of some of the most requested data regarding the educator workforce in Michigan. This is an informational presentation and does not require board action. It is related to the presentation board that you heard last month on the 7th of our 8 new state strategic education plan goals addressing the teacher workforce. Dr. Bill Pearson, Interim Deputy Superintendent of Educator, Student and School Supports, and Ms. Leah Breen, Director of the Office of Educator Excellence, will do the honors. Gentle people, re-welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Rice. And as you stated, this educator workforce data report is an annual update, and Leah Breen, the Director of Educator Excellence, will present the information.
Good morning, State Board of Education. See. Can you see my PowerPoint okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. As was mentioned, this is an annual update for you. Each year we produce this educator workforce data report. It was originally created in response to a number of data requests. Typically those data requests, I have to advance my slides here. Okay. Come from you, the State Board of Education. They come from our educator preparation institutions, the legislation, our national partners, community members, researchers. We answer several hundred FOIAs about our educator data annually, and our goal in producing this report, which this year totals 92 pages, so you are seeing just a true snapshot of the data available today, is to really make this information accessible to anyone. This is linked to the full report on our website. We often provide you with printed copies. This year, we're just posting on the website for now, and we'll move toward printed copies in the future. But as the report expands to 92 pages, it gets a little bit more difficult to print. So let's take a look and see what we've got. We're going to talk a little bit first about some of our preparation data. So in the past 4 years or so, we have 7 educator preparation institutions or providers that have elected to close, and this shows you the distribution of those numbers over those years. In 2015 and 16, it was Robert B. Miller and Kalamazoo College. 16-17, it was Buena Vista University's Teach for America program. 17-18, it was the new teacher project and leading educators. And 18-19, we lost Michigan Tech and University of Detroit Mercy. We also had a new educator preparation providers during that time. If you'll remember, we have had a moratorium on our traditional institutions, and so we didn't have any traditional providers that opened during that time. We had alternative route and some institutions that opened teacher leader programs. So in 15-16 in the teacher leader programs, we had the Network of Michigan Educators open. 16-17 was Leading Educators in Kent ISD for teacher leader programs. And in 17-18, Macomb ISD opened a teacher leader program. In 17-18 for alternative routes, the Professional Innovators in Teaching was opened, and also Michigan Teachers of Tomorrow, and 18-19 #Teach was opened. One of the other data points that we find really interesting is our preparation satisfaction. So what you're seeing right here is a snapshot of survey data from student teacher candidates and their supervisors. So the green are the teacher candidates, the orange are the candidate supervisors, and in this survey, they're indicating their satisfaction with the preparation they received in each of these areas. Addressing the needs of special populations, we bring this report to you annually. This is the third time that you have seen that addressing the needs of special populations is one of our lower areas, and we are still working diligently to provide our candidates with more experiences, more preparation to ensure that they feel well prepared to work with all of our students. Special populations, as it pertains to this graph, is specific to students with disabilities and English learners. This will be accompanied in the future. We're preparing a year out survey, so a year after our candidates have been in the profession, to see how they feel about their preparation. And it will include the on-site mentor teacher data in the future. Michigan Test for Teacher Certification. This comes up occasionally. Our overall Michigan Test for Teacher Certification pass rate still is at about 91%. That is the product of the best attempts over those 3 years. So we look at tests of candidates over 3 years, and we consider passing rate for that 3-year period to reach an overall pass rate of 91% for this 3-year period. Certification, here's a little snapshot of some certification data. So the teal color on this slide are teaching certificates. The orange are other educator certificates combined, and those include things like school counselors, school psychologists, school administrators. You can see in 14-15 was our highest point for teaching certificates. We have continued to dip and then have begun an upswing in 18-19, which is really good news. So those certificates that you just saw, those initial certificates, are comprised of candidates who come from in-state and candidates who come from out of state. And here's a snapshot of where our candidates are obtaining their preparation. So the top bar are in-state candidates, and you can see back in 14-15, about 3,600 of our candidates were prepared in in-state institutions. And in 14-15, about 1,200 were out-of-state institution. In-state is declining a little bit, and out-of-state is increasing a little bit. One of the factors that contributes to this pattern that we see is that online programs, so if I am a person living in Michigan and I am taking an online teacher preparation program, those are considered out-of-state programs. And so that is why we see some of these numbers increasing, are because individuals are taking advantage of those online programs. About 28% of our applicants have completed out-of-state preparation programs, including those online programs. And that's really important to acknowledge. 28% of our educators in our state have not had the exposure that we would like to see from the standards that this board has adopted, the requirements for our clinical experiences with diverse educators, and all of the criteria that we have for our Michigan programs, our reading content. 28% have not had that. So that's important to know when we're looking at our teacher population. Out-of-state application approvals, I always like to put this one up here because we hear a lot from our friends in our K-12 school districts about our out-of-state candidates not getting approved to teach in Michigan. We have about a 95% approval rate for out-of-state applications in 1819. Only less than 1% of those applicants that came from out-of-state were denied. Some of them down here remain limbo. They needed payment or we're waiting for them to submit documentation, but we actually have a very high reciprocity rate from educators coming from other states. Moving to recruitment and placement for employment. So this is really interesting, and you actually saw this last month as part of the metric presentation that we did on the critical shortage in educator workforce. The number of employed teachers that we have in our schools is increasing, and that is exciting news. Our goal now, of course, is to keep up with the demand of the increased educator workforce. This is also interesting and exciting data. First year teachers reported in REP, so this is the number of teachers who reported as assigned to a public school in a teacher assignment for the first time. And you could see in 1819, that is the highest that it has been in 5 years. So that is good news. It likely is related to the fact that there are more open positions. And so first year teachers or newer teachers are getting hired more quickly out of educator preparation programs. This is kind of interesting, certificate progression and renewal. So if you look at the top number, this bar up here is certificate renewal. That means I have a teaching certificate and I'm going on to, in 5 years, renew that teaching certificate. You can see in 14-15, we started at about 11,000 renewals. We went up to about 18,000 renewals. We took a dip, we went up to 17,000. So these renewals kind of are going up over time pretty drastically. It's a pretty steep incline. The middle line are certificates lapsing. So educators who have not renewed or not moved on to another certificate, they've essentially just let their certificate expire. And that's remained pretty steady with a small increase for 1819. And the bottom line are educators who went on to another certificate. So essentially they have moved from a standard certificate to a professional certificate, or from a professional certificate to an advanced professional certificate. So they haven't just renewed the one that they're on, they've decided to move to another certificate. And you can see that that has declined from about 4,700 to 2,100 in 1819. There is some explanation for this. During this time, there was a change in administrative rule that allowed educators to renew their teaching certificate as many times as they wanted to. And it used to be required that they had to move to a different certificate over time or risk losing their certification. And that rule was removed. And so more educators are choosing to renew than to move on to a different certificate. A little bit of information about professional learning, growth, and retention. We're trying to give you just a smattering in each of the areas that we cover in our office in terms of educator workforce data. So here are our teacher effectiveness ratings for the 18-19 academic year. So starting over here on the right, the top is teacher effectiveness, and teachers were rated about 41% highly effective and 58% effective, and only about 1% minimally effective. Administrator effectiveness, 37% were highly effective, 62% were effective, and 1% were minimally effective. And these are educator evaluations that are required by law and issued by the school district for which the teachers are employed. Professional learning, so SCOTUH stands for State Continuing Education Clock Hours. The sponsors are those entities within our state that offer professional learning for educators, and opportunities are essentially the number of programs that we have. So over here we see we have 337 different entities that offer professional learning in our state for our educators to access. And in total, we have about over 14,000, almost 15,000 different programs for educators to obtain their professional learning for which they need to renew their certificate or advance their certificate. Over here on the left is kind of a breakdown of the different categories. So you can see there are about 5,000 different types of professional learning opportunities for instructional strategies and management. There are about 1,200 that focus on special education. There are about 1,700 that focus on technology and media. So this just gives you a little bit of breakdown of the kinds of professional learning opportunities that are available for our educators. Recruitment and recognition. We put some photos up here for you. Give you a second just to look at those. And here are our regional teachers of the year, including Michigan Teacher of the Year. A little snapshot of them. These are the individuals that you have seen coming through and presenting to you monthly here. A little bit of data about these programs. Last year, we created 6 Proud Michigan Educator videos that really focused on different educators within our profession and important topics within our profession. Those videos had an estimate of about 7,000 views, which is really good. It's exciting, and we're looking toward increasing those numbers even further. For the 1920 Michigan Teacher of the Year this year, in advancement of our recognition activities, we had 441 nominations, also really exciting. I think Jen has mentioned this before when she's come to the table, that Michigan has had the highest number of Michigan Teacher of the Year nominations than any other state, which is really exciting, and it tells us we're doing a good job to do our best to recognize our educators in this field. And that is your snapshot today. And I just want to remind you that there are 92 pages of this interesting and exciting data that you can peruse and follow up on. And I do want to say thanks to the team who developed this. This is a big lift each year, but we think it's really important for our partners and our stakeholders to make sure we create this. It was difficult to produce, particularly in time of a pandemic and particularly in time when we were short-staffed, and people really stepped up and learned new skills to make sure that we could create this again for everybody to use in the field. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Breen. Thank you for your presentation and your leadership in this regard. We appreciate it. Dr. Pritchett, a comment.
Thank you. I just wanted to publicly thank Leah and the staff who did put together that 93-page report. True confession, I have not read through it word for word, but I did download it, and it's very well organized, and I think gives us some great information on the educator workforce, which is so important at not only at this point, but in the future, as far as where we're going to go with some of the challenges all of us are going to face, all of our schools are going to face post-pandemic. So just wanted to thank you for that report. Thanks.
The report is an enormous contribution to our rebuilding the profession. The profession has been denigrated over the last decade. The profession needs to be uplifted over the next decade. And with strong data, we're able to begin that process. So we appreciate the work of the OEE, the Office of Educator Excellence team, and specifically of Ms. Breen. Ms. Fecteau, a question.
Yeah, thank you. I was wondering, so the out-of-state folks, especially the online certifications, how are they getting in-room, in-classroom, like student-teacher experiences? Is that happening, and how does that, I'm just curious about that. And I'm also curious to see if what's coming in aligns with where the needs are, the critical areas are, if you have an idea about that. Thank you.
Yep, sure. So in good news, the online providers typically have either partnerships or a requirement for student teachers to conduct student teaching at a local district. So if I'm a Michigan teacher and I am taking an online program, I will still have to do my student teaching experience, and that's typically done in a Michigan classroom. So they are still expected to do their student teaching, and we only approve their programs if they have done their clinical experiences. Oh, second question, sorry. The alignment of the teachers that we are producing to the endorsements that we need. So it's tricky. We don't know always how many we need of a particular endorsement. And right now, the shortage is pretty widespread. So as we mentioned last month, we've moved out of the typical areas that we see of shortage, and we are now seeing many content areas full of shortage. Overall, I would still say that we are producing not enough teachers in key areas, special education, secondary STEM, world languages, things like ASL, all of our typical areas. We may be producing enough teachers in places like elementary education, general elementary education. The challenge is, are we able to get those teachers to relocate regionally to fill our gaps? And that is still problematic. So even if we are producing enough in a particular content area, we're not doing that region by region so that they are adequately distributed throughout the state. And there are tables in the back of the data report that demonstrate teacher production in different content areas.
Thank you.
I think, Ms. Fecteau, the other aspect of that response is that we may be producing enough enough certified teachers in the state. Whether or not they choose to go into the profession, given the conditions in the profession, it's a different story. And we have to improve upon those conditions. When we survey teachers or prospective teachers about going into the field, or why they left the field, or whether they got certified but they didn't end up accepting a position in the field, oftentimes they reflect upon compensation, either in terms of salary or in terms of benefits, as reasons why they chose not to go into the field or why they chose to leave the field. Those are issues that are far beyond the ability of any individual local school district, or for that matter, the department, to address uniquely. That we need the support of the state legislature, and there needs to be a consistent, substantial drumbeat around this issue of raising up the profession, making it a desirable profession, a destination profession, a profession that the best and the brightest want to go into, so that we are able to rebuild a profession that was badly undermined over the last 10 years, not simply in our state, but in many states across the country.
Thank you.
Other reflections. I see President Ulbricht looks like she wants to say something. No? Okay, fair enough. Other thoughts. Ms. Ramos-Montini. You are on mute. I know what you are saying is important.
It is. Thank you.
Díganos.
Okay. All right. Not only is it important to increase the number of teachers, but it's also important to retain the good teachers that we do have. And so when I get calls from teachers expressing to me such stress, you know, I question myself, what can we do to lower the stress level and keep them the morale high so they can continue teaching remotely right now. So that's a thing that I worry about, because in the last few weeks, teachers have been calling me, and I know that there's this stress that's building, and it's not a healthy thing. So I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other questions or comments by state board members? Hearing and seeing none. Ms. Breen, thank you very much for your presentation. And we are moving along in our agenda. Next agenda item is presentation on proposed changes to the Perkins Core Performance Indicator 3S1 post-program placement. This is a presentation on proposed changes to a Perkins Core Performance Indicator regarding post-program placement. There will be a brief overview and timeline, including a period of public comment. The compiled public comments will be submitted to the State Board in April. Our presenters today are Dr. Scott Koenigschneck, Deputy Superintendent of P20 System and Student Transitions, and Dr. Brian Piles, our Director of Career and Technical Education. There will be a brief PowerPoint presentation. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Rice, and thank you. And thank you, State Board members, for allowing Dr. Piles and I to do a brief presentation on an ask, potentially, for a revision to one of our core performance indicators associated with our Perkins plan. As Dr. Piles pulls up the PowerPoint, Dr. Piles will be providing you the why we are asking for this revision. So we'll provide information for you today. The idea would be then to bring the information back to you in January, asking you to allow us to go out for public comment. We would do that. We would bring that public comment back to you in April, and then ask you to formally approve the revision in May. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Piles to talk about the specific revision that we're asking for as it relates to post-secondary program placement.
Scott, can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. As previously mentioned, we are going to talk about making a proposal to adjust one of our core performance indicators for Perkins for the next school year. The Michigan State Plan for Career and Tech Ed really does support the top 10 strategic education plan in making sure that we continue to expand on secondary learning options for all students. We continue to increase the percentage of students who are graduating from high school, and then increase the percentage of adults with a post-secondary credential, which is a new component of the Perkins legislation, as you know. As we look to revise the 3S1 indicator post-program placement, we're doing this in an effort to make sure that we are helping to control for the effects of COVID on our school districts. There have been changes in opportunities for students, and we want to make sure that we are providing benchmarks for the school districts that are attainable. Specifically, there's been an increase in unemployment for all citizens in Michigan, with a stronger increase in unemployment for students. And then also there's a decrease in first-year college enrollment. The post-program placement indicator is based on students who are CTE concentrators, and once they exit secondary education, we survey them in the second quarter after exit to determine if they're continuing in their education or some level of advanced training or the military, or they're employed. And those opportunities for our students, while the number of students we have, we don't anticipate changing who are enrolled in career and technical education, the opportunities for those students to meet that indicator have sharply declined here in the state of Michigan. Each one of the eligible agencies, which is the Michigan Department of Education, make sure that each one of our levels are valid and reliable, and it includes at a minimum measures with input from eligible recipients. And so we will need to take this out for public comment for 60 days. If you look at the table on this slide, currently we are looking for a 95% of our students to be engaged in post-secondary education, military, or employment upon graduation of our CTE concentrators. We're proposing to adjust that to 75% for the 2020-21 school year. And when you look at the data on the screen, you will note that the unemployment numbers, while better than they were at the beginning of the pandemic, still are much higher than the 2019 year. Also, when you look at the unemployment for youth, and right now it's at 18.5%, twice as high as a year earlier. And there are 16% fewer students entering college in the fall of 2020. And so those are less opportunities, and an even steeper enrollment of 23% among first-year students at our community colleges. And low-income students may have 8 to 10% drop in college enrollment as well from another source that the research consultants in my office reviewed in putting together this proposal. Important to note that we're asking for the 2021 adjustment to 75%, which is 20 percentage points. This also includes, when you look to the middle of the table, the 2020-21-22 school year, which is also slated for 95%. We would like to adjust up to 80%, which would be a 15% change. And then when we get into the 22-23 school year, we'd like to go back to the originally negotiated numbers. And so we want to stair step our schools back up and make sure that we have opportunities for our students to be successful. The timeline is presenting this information to you briefly today, asking for an action item in January to move forward with the public comment public hearing, which will take 60 days. And then you'll note in March, my staff will quickly compile the comments, and we'll put together a state board presentation for April, asking for approval in May, and then upon approval, we would submit it to USED. I also have a slide here of the research citations, if you would like to see those. Dr. Rice, back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Pyle. We have a question. Our board president, Dr. Albrecht.
Thank you. Very briefly, can you just talk about what the implications are of this change, or what the consequences could be if we don't make the change?
Yes. If we don't make the change and our schools don't meet the target, then we have to go through and we have to do regional improvement plans across the state, and then submit a state regional improvement plan to USED. And so it would be additional paperwork for our school districts and additional processes that we don't feel they should be subject to, given the lack of opportunity that's available for the students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Snyder, a question?
I'm sorry, can you repeat? You said lack of opportunity for the students. It doesn't exist for them, or there's an engagement issue. Can you describe it more thoroughly? Yes, and so there's when you look at the data, there are less job opportunities for students. So the unemployment rate of high school of students who graduated from high school and youth is much greater than it was a year ago. And many less students, 16% less students entered, first-year students entered college this fall. And so our numbers are predicated upon 95% of our students meeting those measures, but we're seeing that many less students had the opportunity for some reason to enter. We don't know exactly why the first-year students aren't entering, but we do know from a solid perspective why students won't be able to secure jobs is because the unemployment rate is so high, and then much higher for their age than the general population. So we'll continue to work with our county directors and do as much as we can to engage students, to continue to, push forward as strongly as we can to make sure all students have an opportunity. It's just going to be a little bit more challenging, and we don't think we'll be able to reach those exact numbers that we had before because there's less opportunity. Okay, couple questions. Is 3S1, this process of paperwork, is it associated with dollars through USED?
It can be. After a number of years, it can be associated with a reduction in funding.
So will we see a reduction in funding, or will we continue to get the funding, we just won't do the paperwork?
We'll continue to, so if we move forward with this public comment and we submit our proposal to USED and they approve it, then there would not be a situation where hopefully we have to do any regional improvement planning. But choosing not to do this or choosing to do this, our Perkins allocation will remain the same. It's over time, if we're not meeting the indicator, that it can be reduced.
Okay.
So by doing this today, we're not going to limit the amount of money we get next year.
So another question, just always looking at how, given a situation and the challenges that come with it that we didn't anticipate, but that there is associated with outcome for those 20%, like the kids that you're not seeing show up. Will we use those dollars anyway to try to engage that population of students in some way to encourage them that even while the opportunity doesn't exist, to stay engaged or to, how are we using those dollars? I'd hate to see them be received, but then not be given to those students, even if not in the original spirit and an improvement plan isn't being written because of XYZ.
Okay, so the dollars aren't attached to individual students. They're attached to regional distribution and regional planning. And so regions will still continue to use those dollars to engage students to a pathway to their post-secondary education, to still engage students to help them secure employment. And so the money is a much broader pot of money that influences the activities within the region. And then another component would be if we end up in a situation where we have to do a regional improvement plan, that will make us ineligible for asking for this type of a reduction in the future. Because once you fall short of your performance indicator, you're not allowed then to go back out for public comment to adjust it. So we want to be ahead of this, not behind it.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're discussing process that you don't control, but that you respond to. I appreciate that. I understand. I just want to make sure that that percentage of students that are people, that they still are addressed in as much of the original spirit as is possible.
Oh, absolutely. I have no trouble believing that our county directors, our high school principals, our teachers, our work-based learning coordinators, and counselors are going to continue to engage with all the students. In fact, this number I don't believe this number would lessen their interest in helping students. I believe they're still going to do all that they can, and especially from what I feel as I've personally witnessed of how deeply our current tech ed teachers are still wanting to and engaging with our students in some of the projects they were working on this summer to make sure that they could create good work-based learning opportunities for our students that were more remote. Some of the things that when we come out the other side of COVID that we're going to be better off from in different ways of engaging children. I believe that they're still going to shoot to make sure every student gets a great opportunity.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I know I've poked around pretty thoroughly here just because I know that this is that place in a student's life that can be, desert-ish, if you will. So I feel like, what is some of the brainstorming that has happened on how you reach those students that have kind of fallen off the map, if you will, or haven't come to college?
So there have been a variety of activities that different regions have engaged in with what we call their student career planning, and engaging with the students to make sure that they still are being able to participate in FAFSA activities for like financial student aid. They're still able to create their educational development plans and revise those educational development plans. And so there's been several different, I believe, models that the regions have been using. And then it really gets down to the local high school, where the local high school counselor and career facilitators and teachers engage with the students on those educational development plans. People are still moving those forward with the young people.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Ms. Fecto, a question?
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of quick questions. One, the CTE, is there a bridging to the joint union industry apprenticeship programs? Is that considered a post-secondary placement or employment?
Yes, ma'am.
So, and that's something that is actively encouraged to work with, or that these apprenticeship programs are part of this collaboration. Are they at the table?
Absolutely. So our friends over in Labor and Economic Opportunity just received 2 apprenticeship grants, one which is specific to work with in-school youth. And while I was listening to this morning's board presentation, I was reviewing the draft RFP that's going to be going out to the regions to apply to create these new apprenticeship consortia, which is a partnership between my office here and our Department of Education and the Labor and Economic Opportunity Department. And so that's a really timely question because we just received some resources on Leo's side in the last 6 months to move those forward. And we're also talking about a process to make sure that we are able to include some very specific agreements in our Perkins outcome measures if the students are enrolled in state-approved career and tech ed programs. So it's very exciting times. I will also tell you that you'll be particularly pleased that within that RFP, I wrote in the responsibility at the regional level to engage with our special education transition coordinators.
Thank you very much.
I use that in particular because in my experience, I've worked with special education transition coordinators at both of my ISDs and with our CTE programs and our MRS people, and we had great staffings about individual students to make sure that each child was getting what they needed. I just bring that here to the department. Although this presentation isn't really about me, I guess I just turned it into that. I bring it here to the department to make sure that we continue to include those experiences because those are really strong opportunities to make sure that all of our students are served. And so know that we put that into that proposal just this week.
Thank you very much, Brian. That's wonderful news. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ms. Fecteau. Any other questions or comments of or from board members? Going once and twice and gone. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We appreciate that. Next agenda item is the presentation on additional diploma options for students with disabilities. This presentation will highlight the path forward recommendation of creating additional diploma options for students with disabilities and relates to goals 5 and 6 of the revised Top 10 Strategic Education Plan. It contains information and data on historical graduation rates for students with disabilities by category, as well as information and data regarding other state rates and their policies and statutes regarding this issue. This is an informational presentation and does not require board action. I will note only additionally that Ms. Fecteau, we wanted to bring this forward for conversation while you were still on the board. We felt that that was important, not simply as a discussion piece and moving it forward, but also in honoring your service on behalf of special needs children in the state. Backed by popular demand is Dr. Scott Kenigsknecht and Ms. Terry Rink, our Director of the Office of Special Education. Gentle people, good morning and good morning.
Thank you, Dr. Rice, and thank you, State Board, again for allowing me to present on additional diploma options for students with disabilities. Can everybody see my screen? Am I still on board?
Scott,
yeah.
we see
you are.
Okay, great. Thank you. So as Dr. Rice said, I wanted to spend some time this morning talking about additional diploma options for students with disabilities in the context really of goals 5 and 6 of the Top 10 Strategic Education Plan. You can recall in September, there was a presentation on goal 5 around students who graduate, all students graduating from high school and seeing an increase in the percentage of those folks. And you're going to see later this afternoon a presentation on increasing the percentage of adults with a post-secondary credential. And this notion of additional diploma options really hits at both of those. Number 5 directly, number 6 a little bit indirectly in terms of increasing the post-secondary credentials for adults. And the reason that it hits that goal as well is, and some of you have heard me talk about this, Michelle, as well in our Path Forward conversations, is that our students who leave Michigan's public schools with a certificate of completion and not a high school diploma can enroll in a community college and be accepted in a community college, but they're not eligible for federal financial aid until they pass 6 credits. And so a student without a diploma, and perhaps if they're socioeconomically disadvantaged, are really at a disadvantage in terms of accessing that financial aid rather than, or if they would have had a high school diploma. And so really gets at goals 5 and goal 6. From the September presentation, again, you know that goal 5 talks about increasing the percentage of all students with an emphasis on all. And in the middle of the screen, you can certainly see all includes students with disabilities, and we will be, and when we are, tracking that metric. And here are some of the metrics. These are metrics for all students with the 4-year cohorts, 5-year cohort, and 6-year cohorts all listed from 2015 to 2019. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that data. Again, you've seen this data back in September. The next slide does take a more specific look at students with disabilities. It's the same cohort concept, 4-year, 5-year, and 6-year cohorts, the same time frame, and you can see the percentages from 2015 through 2019. You will see a slight increase in each one of the areas over those 5 years. However, lagging significantly, I would argue very significantly behind their typically developing peers. In special ed graduation statistics, I guess I would say, we look at 3 different measures when we look at graduation rates for students with disabilities. And the first measure we look at on the left-hand side is what we call the 1-year exeter graduation rate. And that can simply be summed up as a snapshot. That is a snapshot of the number of kids with disabilities that graduate in any given year. Just a snapshot in time. The 4-year cohort graduation rate is exactly what it says, is that if you are a 9th grader entering high school, did you graduate from high school with a diploma 4 years later? And same concept for the 6-year cohort. When you entered in 9th grade, did you receive that diploma in that 6th year? And so we have a 1-year exeter graduation, which is more of a snapshot, and 2 cohort points of data that we follow. And if you look back longitudinally at those data measures, you can see where we have been. And I'll start at 2008, 2009, when we have all 3 of those data points available. I won't read all of them to you. You can see that we've had some ups and downs along the way, depending upon the particular year. I'll get into that in the next slide. But if you go all the way to the right, the most recent data we have for all 3 data points is 2018, 2019. And the data is listed there. Our 6-year cohort is the highest, followed by the 1-year exeter, followed by our 4-year cohort rate of 57.8%. This slide is the very same information, just packaged probably in an easier to read format. And I do want to point out a few pieces with regard to that. Again, we do have the 1-year exeter, we have the 4-year cohort, and the 6-year cohort. And if you look at the numbers, they tell a story in terms of the Michigan Merit Curriculum that was put into place. And the first class that was affected by the Michigan Merit Curriculum was the class here in 2011. And so you can see from 2010 a decrease in graduation rate in that 4-year cohort when the Michigan Merit Core was implemented. And then from there, you can see a slow build, almost, well, right back to where we were at about 9 years to get back to where we were at 10 years almost, at 57.8%. If you look at the 6-year cohort, it's kind of the same concept, except you go out a couple of years because you're looking now at additional 2 years. And so you can see the drop off there is closer to 4%. Again, the numbers fluctuating since then. We also broke out the numbers by disability type or disability category. Again, a lot of data on these slides, but I believe, Michelle, you've asked for this as we've talked about this. What are our graduation rates by disability? And that's what we have here. I'll just leave it on the screen. You can certainly draw your attention to what area you'd like. All of the categories are listed over the next 3 slides, with the exception of early childhood developmental delay. That category is not listed because, as we know, students when they reach the age of 8, if they're tested, they may not qualify for special ed anymore, or then if they do, then they are qualified under one of these other labels. And you can see the numbers go up and down by year. This is the same information by disability type with different disability types. You have the other health impairment, physical impairment, specific learning disability, in speech and language. Again, looking at 5 years of data by disability type. And finally, we have 2 other categories, the traumatic brain injury and visual impairment, and the numbers associated therein. So as we look back on the data, and there's a lot of data obviously to reflect upon, for me, really 2 things jump out, and it's almost oxymoronic in a sense, but every aspect of a student's educational career, students with disability, when they are in a school setting, is based upon their IEP. And we know this is an individualized education plan. So the time they spend with our teachers and our paraprofessionals and our bus drivers are all governed in a very individualized manner by their IEP. The oxymoronic part of it is when they go to end their career within our system, the individualized stops with our single current graduation option. We know to graduate in Michigan, you must meet the requirements of the Michigan Merit Corps, possibly with the use of a personal curriculum. And for many of our kids, that poses a tremendous challenge. And so the individualization that they've been accustomed to and their families have been accustomed to ends or stops when they are prepared to leave our system. So that leads us to this conversation. This is a slide that you saw back in January of 2019, and it's associated with our Path Forward work. Again, as Dr. Rice pointed out, work that Michelle was involved in heavily in terms of bringing forward 8 recommendations for change. And this is one of the recommendations, was to create an additional diploma option or diploma options for students with disabilities. This slide, there's a lot of information on it. The purpose of showing this, again, this is lifted right out of the Path Forward document and presentation, but is really to draw your attention to the entities listed across the top. So this particular conversation and initiative really merits the involvement of a tremendous number of stakeholders. This isn't something that the department should go it alone on, that educational associations should go it alone on, that anyone should go it alone on. This conversation really has to involve folks, certainly at the department, but from ISDs, local districts, schools, within the schools, principals and teachers and paraprofessionals. Michelle will remember we had a paraprofessional on our Path Forward work group. Parents and families are critical to this conversation as well as advocacy agencies, our state legislators, in a couple of other entities listed. Beyond the additional diploma options, there are other efforts that are going on to increase high school graduation rates. We know you've been briefed. We have formed what's called the Special Education Instructional Leadership Network with MAISA. That is active, and Terry and I meet with them at least monthly, sometimes bi-monthly. We know we are placing a heavier focus on inclusion, including our students with disabilities at an early age in a general ed setting. And also focusing on quality Tier 1 instruction. There is work going on in the department around EWIMS, which is an acronym for Early Warning, Intervention, and Monitoring Systems. And prior to COVID, there was a great deal of communication and presentation to local school districts around the personal curriculum, an option that already exists, but really an attempt to build an awareness of how that may be used for students. So one of the aspects of the Path Forward is we spent a lot of time examining data. We spent a lot of time examining data of states that what I consider or call states you can drive to, states you can get in a car and within 4 or 5 hours you can be there. And there are Great Lakes states. And so when we took a look at this notion of additional diploma options, we pulled data from states that we could drive to, get in a car today and be there in a relatively short time. And you can see the information there. Minnesota far outperforming all of the Great Lakes states. Again, I won't go through all of these. You can see the other states and where they lie. There are a couple chunks of missing data for a couple of the states that we were unable to locate. But coming forward to 2017, 2018, you can see where those states are at, and you can see where we're at 65.4% regarding our graduation rate. So what are these other states doing? Much like, again, we did before, we have done, at this point, a cursory review. There's some much more work to be done, and we'll talk about that. But we looked at Ohio, Indiana, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Illinois. In Ohio, they have a statute that reads that the student with a disability will meet graduation requirements solely based on meeting the goals of the IEP. So it is focused on the IEP and basically says if the goals are met, the student will meet graduation requirements. In Indiana, they use a different type of a system or process that involves multiple pathways to earn a diploma. And I'm going to click on this in hopes that it takes me there. And it did. And I'm going to attempt to increase that. Everybody still see my screen. I want to make sure that you're seeing what I'm seeing. A diploma and certificate considerations.
You have to change screens.
It's not showing?
No, you're showing the PowerPoint.
Let me go back to the PowerPoint. Are you seeing the PowerPoint now?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to try one more time and see if you can see. Are you still seeing the PowerPoint?
Yes.
All right, so this isn't going to work. So what Indiana does is they have, it's a chart, it's an infographic. Again, all of you received a copy of this, so you can review that by clicking the link, but it is really a pathway. That a student can choose to pursue an additional optional diploma, and if there are different, I'd say, indicators or different ways that they can demonstrate their knowledge, demonstrate proficiency. There are aspects to it that involve attendance, a C average, those kinds of things. And so it really allows for, in a true sense, multiple pathways. And so I apologize I couldn't pull it up, but I really encourage you, if you're interested, to pull this up. It's a very intriguing concept in terms of additional option for our students. Looking at Minnesota. Minnesota is very similar to Ohio in that the high school graduation is closely aligned with the student's IEP. And then Wisconsin and shortly Illinois don't go that far, but their statute does include language around may, that student may meet academic performance criterion by their IEP goals, and that may result in a diploma. And again, Illinois is very similar in that students with disabilities are expected to graduate with a diploma, unless they reach 22 years of age without doing so. And if that's the case, there is an option for the IEP to modify the graduation requirements in whole or in part. And so we have two states that tie it to the IEP. Indiana has, again, I think, a unique opportunity for students to demonstrate their proficiencies in other manners. And Wisconsin and Illinois kind of go halfway. So to wrap things up, considerations, and I shared this a little bit earlier, parents must have a key role in this decision. There are multiple voices that need to be heard, and you heard me articulate those. Parents especially, because we know that receiving a diploma ends IDEA services, and that is certainly not only has an impact on our students, but on their families as well. The focus must be on future employment, learning acquisition, and skill development. This isn't about simply handing a student a piece of paper and say you've graduated. That's not fair to the student. And so the focus really has to be on what are their post-secondary goals, kind of going back to our prior presentation, and what can we do to really ramp up that learning acquisition and skill development for these students as they leave our public schools. And then there must be a variety of input from a variety of stakeholders, as indicated again in the Path Forward recommendation. And finally, I'll leave you with an Einstein quote. This was a quote that was on my tagline, email tagline, for quite some time, and one that I firmly, on a personal and professional way, firmly believe in, that we are all geniuses. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that is stupid. So with that, I will stop and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Dr. Koenig-Schneck. Questions or comments? Questions or comments?
I think Michelle wants to get in. You're on mute, Michelle.
Yeah, I'm
Ms.
having,
Fecto and then Dr. Pritchett.
yeah, I'm having problems with my chat function. I'm also echoing. Are you hearing the echo?
Yes, if we could all put ourselves on mute if you're not speaking, that would be great.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Scott and Terry. I should have recognized you this morning for all the work we've done together and your dedication. I can't tell you enough how much I admire you both and appreciate you both. And and that Scott came around with me when I went. He was at all the meetings with the Lieutenant Governor as well across the state, and really dedicated and sincerely dedicated to these issues, as is Terry. I think this sounds really exciting. I really support the idea of having alternative paths. Can you hear me okay? Yes, okay. I think I'd like to learn more about the Indiana idea, and from folks I've talked to in special education, that seemed like that might be a best route to go. I'm wondering, with our services being uniquely tied, to age 26 for certain populations that need even more support and help, I don't know if it's even, what it would take to connect the two together so that people would have even longer time to meet the criteria if needed to have a diploma if it went beyond age 22. And I don't know if there's legal restrictions or if that's even a possibility. No, you're shaking.
It is a possibility.
Oh, it is.
It is.
So yeah, because I think for a lot of parents who see that their kids need extra support, that they would be more inclined to support a diploma if there was more flexibility. So that's my question about that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fecto. Dr. Pritchett, Ms. Snyder.
I should know this or remember this, but when a student receives a certificate of completion, does that then determine whether they are able to receive IDEA services any longer?
Terry, you want to comment on that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Certificate of completion is really a kind of a term of art. It really is very widely and broadly defined in terms of how districts choose to award those. The majority of certificates of completion are given to students when they reach the age beyond eligibility. So at the point that they are no longer eligible in Michigan, they are given a certificate of completion, which really is a marker that that period of time has kind of ended. Some districts do use them as a way of saying that you've met goals and objectives, you're trained for a job, we want to get you into the workforce, and with a lot of parent support, students are given certificates of completion, but it does not end the obligation for FAPE. So if a student is given a certificate of completion and they have not kind of aged out of eligibility, if they haven't met the graduation requirements established under the Michigan law, they can come back the next day and be given an IEP for additional services that they're entitled to until they reach that age of 26. So I appreciate so much Scott's thoughtfulness about how important it is to involve parents, because we don't want to incentivize a process that will allow students to end their education in advance of really having the skills that are necessary to carry them to the rest of their lives. So I think Scott's diagram for Indiana gives a lot of room for discussion on how that might be possible.
So thank you, Tara. So I was able to pull that up. Again, I apologize, I didn't do it didn't work during the presentation, but this is the diagram that I was speaking of regarding Indiana. You can see that there's a possibility for a student to pursue the Core 40 or an honors diploma, and then if they meet the graduation requirements, they graduate. If not, and this is where the paths begin, they can opt out and opt to receive a general diploma and meet the credit requirements, and they go down here, pass graduation tests, and they graduate. If they meet the diploma requirements but don't pass the test, and again, this is where the options come in. There are a variety of options to demonstrate their competence, and then they graduate. If this doesn't work, you can kind of get the drill. It continues to give options for kids, and including a certificate as well. And so this is what Terry shared and what Michelle shared. I'm very intrigued by. So I'll take it back down now, but wanted you at least take a quick look at it. And if you would like to review it further, you certainly can click in the link you received.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rink and Dr. Koenigsegg, Dr. Pritchett, and then Ms. Snyder.
I got my question answered. I do want to say, though, that I am totally supportive of various pathways for students with disabilities to obtain a diploma or a certificate or whatever title we want to put on it. And I do appreciate both of your advocacy for personal curriculum. Because again, I think that got off to a very, very confusing start when Michigan Merit was first implemented. But I am beginning to hear more and more districts and administrators and teachers talk about, oh, well, we could do a personalized curriculum. So I appreciate your advocacy for that. And I think we need to continue that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Snyder?
Scott, can you pull up that slide with the 3 or 4 year cohort? I just want to make sure I understand it correctly.
I will do so. Which, are you seeing the PowerPoint?
Yes.
And which slide in particular, Nikki, would you like? The one at the very beginning?
Yes.
Right here?
Yes. So, well, and maybe, okay, right there. Sorry, it was that orange one. I just want to make sure, if you go back, I think.
There's this one, this one.
The one with the Exeter.
Maybe go forward.
Yes.
There we go. Okay. So
Right
let
there.
me just make sure I understand this
Sure.
slide, because the question I have could be completely, it could be completely not applicable. So when you're measuring this data, this is for students who are graduating from high school on an IEP, or is this for students who've had an IEP for a certain number of years during their career?
So I will answer that as far as what I know. So it's a student who graduates from high school with a current IEP. And Terry, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, the Exeter rate includes kids who may have taken 4 years, 5 years, or 6 years. That's why Scott said for an Exeter rate, it's a snapshot. So we do track students with IEPs that finish within 4 years, and they maybe didn't get an IEP until they were in 10th grade, but we can still track their data back for a 4-year period to when we report that data. But the Exeter rate includes all the kids, no matter how many years it may have taken them to get a diploma.
Okay. So we don't track students who've had an IEP in their early education years, unless they have one when they graduate.
Not that I'm aware of. So I think your question is, so I was a student who received speech and language services, perhaps, that ceased at the 3rd grade. Are we tracking those students? I believe is what you're asking, Nikki. And I'm not aware of this.
Or 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But just sometime before they graduated. I'm not aware of us tracking that data. Terry, you?
The only data that we collect and track and report are those data that are federally required because of the time that it takes to engage in the analysis. And so we usually are doing those things we're required to do. The system does have the information. I believe if we work with CEPI, there are ways that we can go into the system based on a unique student identifying number and make some, find the children who may have at different times had IEPs or not. But that is information that we typically analyze for any purpose that we're required to report out on.
Okay. I'm just wondering how much more information is even available yet as you consider improving special education on the whole and graduation rates.
Yeah, that's a great point. It would be interesting data to see.
Then the other thing I was thinking about, I went to the Excel and Ed conference this last week. It was great. One of the things that they talked about in one of the breakout sessions was tutoring being something that we will really need to consider as we consider learning loss, but also in a long-term way. And so like the UK has a tutoring core that they are developing, but then the concept of tutoring should be something that every student gets to some degree, and it should be something built into their day. And I know this is just a random concept, but it doesn't feel so random when we think about special education. And then also the learning loss that's existing. So I just wonder if the department is thinking about that or looking to other states that may have already done it or interested in trying to do something on their own.
So, Scott, if I may, I mean, one of the guidance documents we issued this summer was put out to districts July 10th, and it was specific to what we were calling recovery services as it pertains to the foregone learning that occurred last spring. We have been working with districts even today. I met with all the ISD directors at their MACE meeting and reminded them that at the point that we are in here in December, they should have enough information now to not only determine the universal loss for all their kids, but in addition to that, potentially additional loss for children with IEPs. Recovery services are not required, but they are something we felt was a proactive way of trying to add services in addition to their services in the IEP as a way to kind of boost their learning and address some of that loss that they experienced. We right now are still trying to work with districts in using those options as they're working with children in real time, but we are engaging in conversation thinking about, you know, the future when life gets back to normal and what will that new normal be for a lot of our children, and how do we need to differentiate between addressing potential losses and just making decisions about current levels of performance that unfortunately are going to probably be different for many children because of some of the losses that they're experiencing currently. So those conversations are ongoing with ISD directors and in my office as well.
And are those services, those recovery services, are they only during the school day from this time to this time, or do parents and students have access to something that works for them?
Yeah, so what we're saying is that recovery services are supplemental. And they don't have to replicate what's in the IEP. It may just be simply a matter of spending more time with the parent, given that children are home a lot, maybe providing some support to mom and improving skills that she could benefit from in trying to work with children. It may be more teacher time for the special education teacher and general education teacher to plan differently, addressing accommodations that could be helpful. But it certainly could be additional speech services or other types of support that would be more specific to the needs that the child has and supplementing what is in the IEP. It would be very uniquely individually determined based on what the team and the parent come together and have discussions about. We are actually going to be planning to do a webinar. We did our first webinar with parents and families earlier this year, trying to help them understand what the districts are being required to do in terms of IEP implementation, given these changes in the modes of instruction. At the request of one of our local district special education directors this morning, we are going to be doing another webinar specific to recovery services. Because we want them to have a full understanding of what it is and what it isn't. And we also hope that in doing that, it supports the conversation. Given that it isn't required, districts are not obligated to offer it, but they do have obligations if parents request things to either provide those things or give notice in terms of why they would not be. So we want to make sure parents are educated about what those services are, because now's the time we want people talking about them.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Ms. Fecteau?
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. I'm just wondering about who pays for these services, and if there's going to be, you know, I know it's the district, it generally comes out of the general funds, and if that's something that's, if we should be working with the governor's office or the legislator's office to make sure that there's resources to have a comprehensive approach, because I think that'll be a very much a sticking point in getting the services that are needed. And I also understand in the process that parents would have to file a complaint saying that somehow the school district was a bad actor under the under the process we have under IDEA. And I just think, I would hope that we can figure out a way to rise above that. I know it's hard because those are the legal the parameters, but it really isn't anyone's fault. You know, this isn't about someone being bad and a parent having to come and say, you know, create it's an adversarial process. And if there was a way that people could get the services with as little adversary process as possible, I think the money is going to be key. So I'm just wondering if.
So I know that those districts that were in receipt of the CARES Act funds could set aside some of those funds for the purposes of these types of services. I'm fortunate this year that I'm on the board for the National Association of State Directors of Special Education, and the person who's assigned to keep up with the goings on in Capitol Hill indicated yesterday that there's likely to be some kind of a small relief package yet this year, and some of that will be dedicated for education. And while it's not specific apparently for IDEA, there are some flexibilities there. And she also said there's a very serious consideration about a larger relief package moving forward when the new administration is sworn in January. So I'm hoping that there's opportunities for those funds to be used, but districts are making some very difficult decisions about the resources they are given. And I'm going to just continue to say that as long as Congress does not honor its own requirement to fully fund IDEA, it puts an undue burden on our districts. And unfortunately, like a lot of things, this pandemic has illuminated that, I think, pretty clearly. And I think it's even forced the issue to be a more extreme challenge than it had been previously. So.
Well, and just to put a period at the end of the conversation and into the paragraph and the conversation, that the issues regarding special education funding are not pandemic generated, and they will endure post-pandemic. Not simply in our state, where we're underfunded by $750 million annually, but across the country. The feds have never funded more than 20% of their IDEA responsibilities. They initially indicated 45 years ago at upon the passage of the Education for All Handicapped Act, Public Law 94-142, that they would fund 40%. They've never gotten to 20%, let alone 30 or 40%. And I think that there's some tremendous hope, bordering on expectation, that the incoming president, the president-elect, will work with Congress to boost that percentage. After all, that is something that helps children in every congressional district across the country, red, purple, or blue, and millions of children across the country. And so that needs to begin now, not because of a pandemic, but rather in spite of a pandemic. We have additional needs because of the pandemic, but the needs existed pre-pandemic. The other thing that I would say is that we've been using a lot of words synonymously. They aren't synonyms. And as we move forward within our department, within our state, we're going to need to be more careful about how we define our terms, not simply in this conversation, but more broadly, that the issue of learning loss is not the same as the issue of foregone learning. That if you don't gain as much as you had anticipated gaining, or as much as you should have gained, that's foregone learning. It's still learning, but it's not learning at the same rate that one would have expected under normal conditions. So for example, last year, most children learned during the year. They didn't learn perhaps as much as would have been expected had they not been out of school for in-person instruction the back third of the year. That's different from starting a school year at level X and descending to level X minus Y. That is in fact a learning loss. And so as we move forward and as we reflect upon what we need to do to support our children, to fill in those gaps, we need to reflect upon whether or not we are in fact making up for foregone learning or making up for learning loss. And I want to be clear, this has nothing to do with a particular group of children. This has to do with children generally across the state, across the country, who have been adversely affected by a pandemic. So this is not an issue of special education, although yes, it is related to special needs children. It is related to all children who have been adversely affected in one way, shape, or form across the country, and in many cases across the world by the pandemic. It is 12:04. This was an enormously rich conversation. It is a beginning. It is not an end. Ms. Fecteau, know that you and Ms. Ramos-Montini may be leaving the board in one fashion, but you cannot leave in another. We expect your continued partnership. It is 12:05. We will reconvene at 1 o'clock. Have a good lunch, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.